Good afternoon, everyone. It's a great pleasure to be here. At the outset, let me thank the organizers, Digital Learning Higher Education Summit organizers. I think it's been a wonderful, the whole objective of these gatherings are to mingle with like-minded people. I'd also like to thank the panel chair and, of course, Professor Brigadier Grewal, whom I have known for quite some time, has given some wonderful insights into the area. So I'm going to show you, I'm going to share with you some of the thoughts that I have. I need some help here. Okay, just figure it out.
This is something, at times the technology does this. We also need a support.
Okay, I'm glad I worked. Okay, so I thought I'd share with you today in the next 10 minutes some of my thoughts that have stemmed from the fact that NIT University started just a short while ago, a year ago. And this tremendous work that is going on there in technology. It's a technology-driven, research-focused university. And we are all, hundreds of people are working from within India and outside India, trying to ensure a whole ecosystem which is really state-of-the-art. So I'm going to share some of the thoughts and that hopefully will answer some of the challenges over here on technology-enabled campus. So I'm going to take you through the campus that I see is going to look like in the future, in times to come, in the near time to come, because I think the way things are changing, my daughter is in 7th grade and she's on top of me, and I'm a computer scientist. I thought I did my PhD, but she's on par with me as far as technology is concerned. She's outstanding in iPods and iPads, and I'm saying, well, kiddo, teach me, I don't have time. She says, oh, that's an excuse. He doesn't want to learn. So the way things are changing, I think we can only predict in the next 1 or 2 years. We don't know what will happen 5 years from now. So I'm going to share that thought with you. And I will go from the campus and zoom into the classroom and share with you what the future classroom will look like. And the trends have already started in the last few years. So I'm going to start with this very interesting slide, and I'll give you the reason why I'm starting with this slide. At NIT University, 5 years went, and we figured out with the great minds of Rajendra Pawar, who's also the advisor to the Prime Minister, and to Kapil Sibal, intense brainstorming, and the 4 core principles defined the foundations of NIT University. Now, very interestingly, last night when I was putting my thoughts on the slides today, it turned out that all these 4 feed in very nicely to what the topic today is, or what the theme of the session is. So if you look at our first core principle, we are industry linked. What this really means is whatever we do, right from the undergrad level to the postgrad level to the PhD level and the postdoc level, we're going to be very closely aligned to industry. And I think it's very important in India. We are lost, we are in a silo. We need to be very, very closely aligned to startups, to R&D labs, to Government of India labs. And that industry alignment and linkage will, I think, in my view, will make a big difference in the years to come. We're already seeing that. I'll share that with you in just a few minutes from now. We are technology-based. In everything we'll do, even in everything that we do, including fine arts and MBA that is starting this August, we will heavily leverage technology. And not just technology, but state-of-the-art technology, such as WiMAX, such as Zigbee networks. Name it, and we believe technologies, state-of-the-art technology should be there in campuses that are starting now, because we have the privilege, and since the new campuses have all the flexibility, the freedom, they are the best candidates where they can imbibe these new technologies. So that's what technology-based is about. Research-driven. Now, there's one huge challenge that India is facing at this point in time, and that is the lack of research focus. It's really sad if you ask me what is the research contribution in India, forget the Government of India labs, and they're outstanding, kudos to them. But if you look at a private sector, other than probably the multinational like IBM and General Motors and Microsoft and Alcatel-Lucent, I cannot name of other research labs. The Indian companies have negligible research. If you put all these core principles together, then what the whole point is that this really throws open a Pandora's box on what the future classroom and what the future university is going to look like, right? So I'm now going to zoom in after the 4 core principles. I'm now going to zoom in and look at and take a peek at technology-enabled campus. And we all, of course, know ICT very well. I'm talking to a very distinguished audience here, fairly learned audience. But let me zoom in and convince you and convey to you what I mean by ICT-enabled or technology-enabled campus. So first point to note is that clearly there has to be a ubiquitous broadband connectivity. There's no question about that. Future campus, even today, we impart our educational technology, which is MTech program, through distance learning, right? We impart, and I'm going to show you a slide. The entire set of students sit all over the country, and they are taught by experts sitting at Neemrana using this over a distance learning platform, right? So we're already practicing that. And that can only happen if you have a broadband connectivity, number one. Number two, we are heading to a pervasive era. With that in mind, we've started an MTech program called Pervasive Systems, and the whole objective of this point number two is that we are seeing what is called a borderless, the whole concept of borderless networks. There are all kinds of networks. There are networks which are personal area networks in the body, such as Bluetooth or Zigbee, and then as you move up, there are Wi-Fi networks. As you move a level up, there are cellular and WiMAX networks, and then there are 4Gs and 3Gs and so on and so forth. And a big challenge, as my illustrious speaker before me, Brigadier Grewal, pointed out, that one of the nightmares that we are facing today in new evolving campuses, or even in existing campuses, is that what technology do you get? Because the technology changes by the day. Do you get 802.11 A, B, or G? You get that, well, they're obsolete. It's 1.11n now. It's a broadband Wi-Fi. So what do you do? So the superposition, the convergence of numerous and plethora of technologies is a challenge, but I think I see it as a very interesting and a healthy challenge. So the whole point is that this pervasive campus is something that you will see, most of the campuses will now emerge to become pervasive campuses. And my next slide will capture what all technologies these are. And then you will see something called a connected community. And again, Brigadier Grewal so nicely pointed this out, and I also, my colleagues over here, whom I had a chat with before lunch, that we're not only talking about learning, we're talking about a campus that can impact this country. We're talking about a campus that can help villages nearby, that can adapt or adopt villages nearby. So we're talking about healthcare, we're talking about training schools, school kids, school teachers, and we're doing that. We are going there, we are thinking of mobile vans that will take care of healthcare, not as experts, but as people in pedagogy, as people in education. How do you exchange the healthcare parameters from the nearest village to the university and then send it off to our partners, right? The healthcare service providers or the partners. So the whole world of education is not just education. It's a world of community connect, the world of learning along with infotainment, as we pointed out. It is healthcare. It is all kinds of paradigms that you have seen and you've heard in the last few years. Here is a peek at what the networks are and what are these borderless networks. So as I said, if you look at the bottom row, that's the personal area networks, right? So these days, all your cell phones can talk to each other and your iPads can talk to each other, and that happens through wireless personal area networks. And then you have the wireless LANs in the next category. On the x-axis, the speed, which is increasing as years pass, or probably as months pass. And then you have a very nice interplay of wireless metropolitan area networks, which is WiMAX. 4Gs are almost out. They're there. 3Gs, of course, there now. And so the challenge number one is this interplay of multiple networks, each serving its own purpose. You cannot say that I'm going to just live with one network. That will not work, because each network has functionality. It has a purpose. So you have to marry all of them with the most cost-effective solution, and that's going to be the solution of the future borderless networks in your campus. What else? Well, technology-enabled campus also implies that you have to think of a green campus. Today, we're seeing devastation around us, right? I mean, I'm appalled when people are wasting water or electricity, and I'm trying to convey this to my own children that, look, for God's sake, don't take a bath and shower. Switch off the light even if you're going for 5 minutes. Because there is no water and power in India. It's a crisis in this country or the world. So how do you solve this problem? One way to solve the problem is, well, figure out solutions where you can minimize the carbon footprint, the carbon dioxide footprint. And we are doing that. So just to give an example, to share with you how we are doing that, this is the only university that has no air conditioning at all. Our carbon dioxide footprint is zero. How? Because we have earth-air tunnels that leverages what is called geothermal effect, the geothermal cooling. And so there are kilometers and kilometers long tunnels under the earth. We tap that differential of the temperature, which is 26 degrees Celsius, and that is circulated to each and every room in the campus. So we are playing a little 2 cents role in trying to minimize the carbon dioxide footprint. What else? We're trying to start courses in green computing, in green communications. There's a huge scope of redefining your whole structure in computer science and calling it green computer science or green communications. And we're actually doing that by starting courses as early as next session. All right. Here is a slide that shows you synchronous learning, and this is exactly how we handle our education technology batch, which, as I said, sits all over India because they're in industry. And they sit at their industry, Wipro and various other places, Delhi, Greater NCR region, Bangalore, Hyderabad. And the content is beamed from the studios either in Delhi or in Neemrana. And it's a wonderful real-time experience. It's a bi-directional real-time experience, right? So there's no problem in terms of performance, because these are tuned networks. And of course, the performance is not always perfect, but you have to tune it. And so the lessons learned is that, well, There are problems in terms of real-time issues, but in future, if you look at the future of synchronous classrooms, it will be real-time, anytime, anywhere. The cell phone paradigm will now come to your campus. Your faculty and students could be anywhere in the world. Even as even today, as on date, we are interviewing candidates over Skype, and these candidates are all over the world. We're not calling them to the campus. 2 Skype calls, and either you give the offer or you just reject the candidate, and it works wonderfully, right? You don't have to call them and spend a couple of lakhs for airfare from abroad to India. So all kinds of ICT technology that we're using in the campus just to ensure that we minimize the cost, we are conscious, and we don't, and we're conscious about this whole environment and the whole green, quote unquote. So what is the global classroom? Well, in my view, a global classroom is a fully digital classroom with bidirectional communication. I'm going to emphasize that because I may beam, you may hear me or you may see me wonderfully, but if I can hear all of you and I can get messages or audio or video from all of you simultaneously, then that truly is a bidirectional communication in a classroom context. Rich multimedia experience, right? Several experts presenting their views in an interactive manner from various parts of the globe at the same time. Real-time translators. I mean, I think the day is not far, and we've already seen that in the United States. You're sitting in a room, and there are those tens of screens in CNN studios in Atlanta. You have people talking in different languages, and in seconds there's a translation going on, not even in seconds, and you see the whole world sitting right over there at your studio. So it's all reality, but I think the problem is the cost, and we have to really scale it down to a more affordable level. And then we're talking about a 3D experience, and I don't have to elaborate on the great, fantastic experience of the Avatar movie, and that's exactly what the future is of a global classroom. All right, and I thought it was only appropriate to share with you some of the, a very interesting and a catchy video, thanks to our partners, Microsoft Research Labs in Bangalore. We've got this very nice clip from them. I really have to acknowledge the contribution of Microsoft Researcher. But I think this is really, in summary, how the future classroom will look like. Welcome. Let's take a peek at the classroom of the future. I don't have an audio here. All right. So, in summary, that brings me to my last slide. You're really seeing here the role of social networking coming to the campus, right? So it's not just ICT. I'm going to add ICT plus social networking, which really is what the future education is about. But the challenge is, my last slide, So what's the challenge? Well, the future will be fully digital, interactive, multimedia enabled, and ... because there's so many things that you can think of and I can add over here. It's not really, this is not really an exhaustive slide. What are the key challenges? And I think the key challenges for us at the universities or in startups or in other R&D labs are going to be cost-effective technology. How are you going to get all these technologies and make them cost-effective and work with each other? They have to be interoperable and so on and so forth. Fully pervasive campus, fully pervasive technologies. And finally, I'd like to end with a very positive note. There are plethora of services hitherto unexplored in this sector. I think my last point would be that the takeaway from this talk should be that we are really seeing today, we are at a turning point, a tipping point, as one of the great authors pointed out. Doesn't need an introduction, right? The book called Tipping Point. That you will probably see an emergence of hundreds of startups in the education sector. And the sector will not be about just education or pedagogy. It will be getting trillions of technologies, diverse technologies from all over the globe, make it cost effective, and there you are, and that's your startup. Right? I'm going to stop over here. But I think there's a food for thought for all of us here, that why are we just sitting in our universities and not spawning startups day after day? Thank you so much.